Imagine a man so dangerous that MI5 watched him day and night, and yet they still couldn't stop what happened next. A man under full surveillance, monitored every second, still manages to carry out an attack in front of armed officers. How does someone do the unthinkable while being watched in real time? Today, we uncovered the truth behind one of the most alarming security failures in modern UK history. When 20-year-old Sudesh Amman stepped out of HMP Belmarsh in February 2020, he didn't walk out as a free man. On paper, he was released. Legally, he had served his mandatory sentence. But in reality, he entered one of the most intense surveillance operations in modern British history. For MI5 and the Metropolitan Police, Amman wasn't just another offender rejoining society. He was a high-risk extremist who had shown no signs of change, no signs of rehabilitation, and no interest in walking away from the ideology that put him behind bars. From the very first moment Amman touched the pavement outside the prison gates, specialist officers were already in position. Some followed him on foot. Others watched from unmarked cars. Intelligence teams monitored his phone, tracked his movement, and analyzed his purchases. Every day, every hour, every minute, he was being observed. And yet, despite all this, the attack still happened. To understand how this was even possible, we need to go back to where his radicalization began, not in a physical meeting place, not in some hidden room, but online. As a teenager, Amman spent hours consuming extremist content. By the age of 17, he was already sharing harmful videos, expressing dangerous views, and communicating with like-minded individuals across encrypted platforms. He was young, impressionable, and easily influenced, the perfect target for extremist recruitment pipelines operating in the digital world. When the chaotic noise of the Streatham attack finally settled, investigators were left with a single burning question. How could a man under 24-hour surveillance still manage to strike? The answer wasn't simple. It wasn't one mistake, one officer, or one missed moment. It was a chain of systemic weaknesses stretching back months. Weaknesses that became impossible to ignore after February 2nd, 2020. The first discovery came from reviewing Amman's prison record. His behavior while serving his sentence was deeply concerning. Reports documented him openly praising extremist violence, idolizing dangerous individuals, and attempting to influence other young inmates. Staff repeatedly flagged him as a continuing threat. These were not subtle warnings. They were written, clear, and frequent. Yet the pre-2021 UK sentencing laws offered no legal pathway to keep him inside longer, even though everyone agreed he wasn't ready to rejoin society. What shocked the public most was the realization that the police and MI5 knew he was dangerous. They didn't release him because they thought he was safe. They released him because the law forced them to. As investigators pieced together the timeline, the critical weakness became painfully obvious. Early release rules created a gap between awareness and action, a gap big enough for a real-life attack. Next came the review of Amman's time in the probation hostel. Officers had seen him buying items, walking longer routes, behaving strangely, but nothing clearly illegal. They had no power to intervene until he acted, and by the time he grabbed the knife from the store shelves, there was no time left. Surveillance cameras captured his rapid movements while officers tried to close in. The public later saw some of this footage, raising the question, why weren't armed officers standing closer? The answer again was the law. Surveillance teams were instructed to observe, not intervene, unless a crime was happening. Without evidence of immediate danger, they couldn't act preemptively. The post-incident review revealed an uncomfortable truth. Surveillance alone can't stop someone who's determined to act quickly and violently. It can only respond, and sometimes response isn't enough. In the days following the attack, public reaction was swift and divided. Some blamed MI5, some blamed the police, and some questioned whether early release laws had been too lenient for too long.
Very quickly, the UK government ordered an urgent review into how dangerous offenders were managed. Suddenly, the Streatham attack wasn't just a crime, it became the catalyst for nationwide reform. MI5 cooperated with inquiries, offering for transparency. Their internal review acknowledged that they had assessed Amman as high risk and warned about his extremist mindset and had placed him under intensive surveillance. The Metropolitan Police explained their operational limits. Officers weren't allowed to physically restrain him or stop him from moving freely unless he committed an offense. But this attack revealed something far more important. Surveillance-heavy strategies could prevent long-term coordinated plots, but spontaneous lone attacks were almost impossible to stop. The government realized that this wasn't about one attacker. It was about the structure surrounding people like him. Something had to change at the foundation. Within weeks, a new law was proposed, the Terrorist Offenders Restriction of Early Release Bill. For the first time, terrorist offenders would no longer be automatically released halfway through their sentence, and more importantly, they would require approval from the parole board before re-entering society. This landmark change was directly triggered by the Streatham incident. While political debates unfolded, investigators continued to build a detailed profile of Amman's final days. They reviewed footage of him pacing outside shops, lingering near crowds, and behaving with a mixture of confidence and anxiety. Officers later said his behavior had shifted noticeably just before the attack. A sudden stillness, a sense of finality in his movements, but indicators without legal grounds meant there was still nothing actionable. The review also focused on the probation hostel where Amman lived. Staff reported that he kept to himself, rarely socialized, and seemed mentally unstable. One officer described him as a walking pressure point. Still, without a concrete reason, they could not isolate him or apply special restrictions. This became another weakness highlighted in the inquiry. Probation hostels often lack the tools and authority needed to manage high-risk extremists. As investigators reconstructed the timeline, they found no evidence of a broader network or external planning. Amman acted alone. No one gave him orders, no one helped him prepare. And perhaps that was what made the case even more alarming. He did not need a network to cause harm, just opportunity. And opportunity was created the moment he walked out of prison under outdated laws. The aftermath of the attack forced the UK to confront a difficult reality. A known danger had slipped through a legal loophole, and only a change in legislation could close it. Politicians, security agencies, and the public agreed on something. The system had to evolve. By the time the inquiry concluded, new laws had already been passed. Terrorist offenders would now face longer sentences. Automatic early release was eliminated. Risk assessments became stricter. Coordination between MI5, probation, and the police was rewritten to be faster and stronger. The Streatham attack had exposed the weaknesses, and the UK moved quickly to fix them. But for many, the memory of those 62 seconds remains a reminder that in a world of evolving threats, perfect security is impossible. What can change and what must change is the structure we use to prevent such threats from turning into tragedies. The Streatham attack didn't just rewrite laws. It forced the UK to rethink how it deals with extremism, rehabilitation, and risk in an age where one individual can act alone and cause national shock. And perhaps that is the lasting impact of that day. A system forced to confront its limits and choose reform over complacency. Pinpoint subscribe line, safe for YouTube. If you like more carefully researched UK true crime documentaries told responsibly and safely, make sure to subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and keeps these stories coming.